Welcome to Freedom Cast, where your hosts, Jordan and Miranda, show you how to get just a little bit more out of life. Are you ready to leave normal behind?
Welcome to Freedom Cast. Today we have a very special episode. Jordan and I are going to be talking about 3 nonfiction books that you should read in 2018. If you have listened to some of our previous podcasts, you heard that we have made it a resolution for 2018 for each of us to read 50 books. So we're going to have a variety of fiction and nonfiction that we read. We're about halfway through January now, and we have a few nonfiction books that we really like that we want to talk to you guys about because we think they will make a difference in your life.
Yeah, reading is so much fun and it's so good for you. And it's something Miranda and I both realized that we weren't really doing enough of. So we decided just to jump on that book reading train a little bit more, kind of track it for each other and really just read more in general. We're going to shoot for that 50, see how we do. As of this recording, we each have 3. By the time this episode comes out, hopefully we have a few more. But yeah, we're excited just to bring you this episode and talk a little bit more about these 3 amazing nonfiction books that Miranda and I recently finished. And we hope that you decide to pick up too.
And we're going to be calling this little segment Book Club Bonanza because you always need a catchy alliteration, and that was the best we could come up with.
Book Club Bonanza. I like it. It's good.
It's pretty good. So, like I said, Book Club Bonanza, we're going to be going through 3 nonfiction books that we have read that we absolutely love, that we think you should definitely take the time to read because they're very good books and that they're practical. They have a lot of good information in them, and they're also interesting. They're not boring because I hate a boring book.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than a boring book.
It's true. That's why I have always been skeptical of nonfiction books because to me they're boring, but these are definitely not.
Yeah, so if you're skeptical, just try it out. Nonfiction books have a lot of interesting stories to them. I mean, I think some of the best ones are told through stories. That's really the best way. I'm not super great at this, but that's the most interesting way to write, is to write in stories, to bring someone in. But we'll talk about that a little bit more with each of the books. You want me to start out with the first one, Miranda? Because this is kind of like, it fits perfectly with our podcast. It kind of fits in, my view on everything. It's why I got the book. The title of it is The Art of Nonconformity, and that's by Chris Guillebeau.
Chris Guillebeau, yes, I believe we're pronouncing that correctly.
Yes. If we're not, let us know. But I think that's pronounced correctly. I don't remember the subtitle. It's The Art of Nonconformity. Set your own rules. Live the life you want and change the world. I like it. That's what Miranda and I are trying to do with our lives right now. We're trying to share that on our podcast, is that, you really can find a different way to live that's beyond the norm. And I know you know that as a listener, because that's what we probably come off as a little preachy on that topic, I would say. But it's something we both care very much about. We decided to pick up this book just to see what else was in it and what else was involved with someone else living a non-conformed life. But Miranda, if you want to just talk a little bit more about maybe why you like the book.
I really, really love this book because I love a book that can...
Nice.
Yeah, I love a book that can kind of get me all worked up and feeling, pumped up. And this book definitely does that. Like I said, I don't like boring books. So this book was definitely very interesting and it got me very pumped up. I'm ready to change the world. I just finished it about an hour ago. So I'm feeling really pumped up about it. If you need a big kick in the butt this would be a great book for you to read. He doesn't get down to the exact nitty-gritty, I would say, about how to do this in your life in this book. It's more of an overview of why it's good to live a nonconformist life, and it's a lot of his own stories and what he's gone through. So like I said, he does give practical information, which is good, but I don't think he delves too deep into it.
Yeah, that would be the only thing I think, really the only thing the book lacks is a practical, in-depth kind of, this is exactly how you do this kind of thing, because that's not really what he was after. He was after this inspirational inspirational book on how to, not live a normal life. Basically, it was about how to do things a little bit differently. He told a story that Miranda was like freaking out about afterward because she loved it, about the monkeys, and I'll let her tell that story. But he talked about this in the book, and it was like a really cool, just like, oh man, like, are we like that? Are we like the monkeys?
Yeah, so there was a study done, and they put 5 monkeys in a cage. And at the bottom of the cage, they had, okay food. But at the top of the cage, they put a whole bunch of fresh, delicious bananas. Now, when the monkeys would go up to try to get the bananas, the people, conducting the study would spray them down with water. So eventually...
Which is pretty mean.
It is pretty mean. It's harsh for the monkeys. But it became a learned behavior that you don't go up for the bananas, because if you do that, you're going to get sprayed and it's not worth it. So that in and of itself is interesting. But to make it even more interesting, they started taking one monkey out at a time and replacing it with a new monkey that had no previous experience with this certain situation. So the new monkey, of course, is like, what the heck? Why are these guys like eating this below average food, underneath us? So the first thing they do is they go up and try to grab the fresh bananas. But because all the other monkeys know that they're going to get sprayed, the monkeys grab the one that's going for the bananas and pulls him down and says, no, you don't want to do that. So they continue this. They keep pulling out one monkey at a time and putting a new monkey in. And all these new monkeys are coming in, and their first instinct is to go for the bananas.
Because who wouldn't want a banana?
Exactly. Bananas are delicious.
Yeah.
We just had...
Except for, we know
delicious...
Nathan Janisic, if you're listening to this, good friend of ours, hates bananas, never understood that. Yeah. There's a shout out for you. I just thought of you in that moment, because you always thought bananas were super gross. Sorry. Finish the story, Miranda.
I was going to give a shout out to the banana bread you just made. That's delicious. But
oh, go ahead.
You went for a different shout out. So
that's right.
Cool.
You can shout out.
Cool.
You can shout out to B bread.
Too many shout outs. But like I said, they kept replacing them. So in the end, it's 5 monkeys that are in this cage that have never actually physically been hosed down by water when they go to reach for the bananas. But because they've been in an environment where everyone pulls them down whenever they try to, they don't even try to go for the bananas, even though at the end of the experiment, all the monkeys in the cage are monkeys that haven't been sprayed by water. So it's so fascinating to me, because I think that's so accurate with like how we as humans can kind of give up on reaching for goals because we think it's impractical. We think of all the things that can kind of tear us down and make it not happen.
Yeah, we think if you don't go to college, you're not going to get a great job, and then you're not going to have... you're not going to be able to get, support your family. We think about all these things, and we think that, we think those things without ever getting sprayed down, without ever going bankrupt, or without ever not being able to provide for our family. So it's a funny story, but it's also, if you really think about it, it's like, oh my gosh, like, wow. It's
so true. It's crazy because you think.
Like, we are like that.
You think about all the bad things that could happen, and you hear all the naysayers in your ear saying, that's crazy, you shouldn't work for yourself, it's not, a reliable income, all these terrible things could go wrong, and you get it in your head that, you know what, they're right, like, I shouldn't try for the bananas, because that's crazy, I'll just accept the average food that
I'll go for the low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
How about that?
There you go, that's true. So I thought that was fascinating, definitely another part of the book that I thought was very interesting was how he talked about higher education and college. Kind of crazy. He didn't actually graduate high school, but somehow he made it into community college and they didn't notice, which I was like, what the heck? How does that happen? He only went to high school for 2 years.
Yeah, I think that I don't understand that part of the story. I think that was crazy.
It's a little sketchy to me. I don't know. That's kind of crazy that he was able to get into college courses like that.
But it's one of those things that shows if you think differently and you think outside the box, you're not necessarily want to get away with things, but things like that are just going to work out for you, because who would even try to do that? Who would even try to go to college without even having a GED or graduating high school? Yeah, who would even think to do that? No one's going to do that. So, why would there be systems in place to prevent that? I mean, maybe there are, but I guess in this case there was not.
They probably made some now.
They probably were like, oh man, like people are trying to do this, but...
I mean, man, if I knew that, I could have skipped out some years of high school. But I think this hits home for you and I, especially because we have a ton of student loan debt because we went to an especially expensive private Christian college.
Fantastic school. I absolutely loved Messiah College. I got a degree in criminal justice that I don't ever plan on using. You know, not a lot of great decisions that were made, but overall, fantastic school. And, you know, I would go again because I met my beautiful wife there.
Oh,
It cost me a lot of money, though.
I know, that's what we say. We're like, the best thing about college is we met each other. But that was like a really expensive upfront cost for our relationship.
Yes, it was. It was worth it, though.
Yeah. we're still paying for it, but you know, it's definitely something I think about when you're graduating high school. You don't really know exactly what you want to do, and all that Chris is really trying to say is think about it and make sure, you know, because you can always supplement that with life experiences. And, you know, when you graduate college, like, I can't remember much of the information I actually learned in college. Everything, when you go to a new job, it's the experience. It's what you're doing at the job. You never go into a job and feel like you're ready because of college, from my experience.
Oh, yeah, no way.
Certain jobs, you know, surgeons and things like that, I think it's definitely different. But for most people, the average person, what the actual facts that you learn in college are not going to be crucial to whatever job you do.
Yeah, if you really think about it, I think, you know, there's a lot of benefits to higher education and education in general. You know, I think leading up to college, a lot of what we learn is learning how to learn, learning how to interact with other people. And that's all very important. You know, of course, having a basic understanding of how to read and write is extremely important, you know, for us and especially kids as they're growing up. But I think the real problem, you know, really starts when we go to college for something we aren't sure of and then get in all this debt. And that is not how we should be pushing people. You know, we feel very strongly about that. Like if you decide to go and you're all about it, there's something you love, more power to you. We just think it's the, oh, I'm not sure, I'll just be undeclared, which is what I did. I was undeclared for a year and a half. And then having all these like non-decisions, and then you really, I mean, you're having a lot of non-decisions. You're you know, undecided about a lot of things, but you've already made the decision to be in a lot of debt. So you're kind of, you're really flailing in a life raft at that point with, you know, without a lot of place to go.
Yeah, because that makes it so much harder down the line to make other decisions, because it's a lot harder to do these crazy nonconformist things when you have a ton of loan following you. And it's the same thing with buying a house. I mean, we have never felt the need for a home. We're 28, so a lot of people our age have already made that step, have already gotten married, gotten a home, and started having kids. And it's the same thing. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But it is, you want to be sure you want a home before you jump into that amount of debt.
Exactly.
So overall, the book was awesome. Like I said, if you want to get pumped up about living a life that's different, he talks a lot about legacy in the book. He just talks a lot about his travels. He has traveled, when he wrote the book, he hadn't traveled to all the countries in the world yet, but as of now, he has, which is amazing. I think that's so cool.
I think that's cool. And it's just, I mean, it's not that super long of a book. It's like 200 something pages. I mean, I think it's a book that everyone should read. You don't have to agree with everything he says, but it just gets you thinking in a different way. It gets you thinking, you know, how to live a little bit differently, like we're trying to do in this podcast. You know, if you're already listening this far with us, if you've been with us from the beginning, maybe there is a part of you that wants to just, you know, grab a little bit more out of life and just like, you know, try to just expand upon yourself a little bit. Reading is a great place to start, and then reading these specific type books. Like I said, whether or not you agree with them, it doesn't matter. It just gets your mind thinking, like Miranda said, it gets you pumped up, it gets you ready to go and ready to jump into that next thing.
Yeah, it really does get you thinking, because you do need to apply action to all these things if you want to make a difference in your life, obviously. But it is very important to also get that motivation and to get pumped up. And where do you think we are? I was trying to think of where we kind of are on the scale of non-conformity. I don't know, I picture us like we've jumped off like the bandwagon, but we like shot a grappling hook to it to make sure we're still like kind of on it.
Yeah, because we're like still on the grid. That's why like we come across, you know, I always want me and you to come across on this show as like we don't have this figured out. We want to be as humble as possible.
We're definitely in the process.
And there's a lot of things that Chris talks about in the book about, you know, say, you know, he's very good about, you know, giving props to people that want to be like, you know, in a type of job. It's just that questioning. It's just that considering. And I think that is really the core of what we really talk about a lot on this show, is just make sure that, you're where you're at, because that's where you really want to be. It's just start questioning things. Start questioning why you do certain things every day. Like, well, why do you come home every day maybe and sit in front of the TV for a couple hours, or if you just sit and watch one show. It's just that question, like, why do I do that? And if you can feel good about doing that, and if you have solid reasons for that, then great. We're not trying to take anything away from anyone. I think it's just really starting to question the things we do in life, because we're not going to be here forever. We don't have forever. And that is the fact of the matter. Miranda doesn't like it when I get morbid, but she didn't even give me a face there, because
you weren't going down the morbid path.
Well, yeah, catch me if I do and stop me if I do. But it's just, we don't have that much time, and we really got to be thinking about what we want to do with our time if we really want to give back. And I think every one of us cares, what our legacy is. Even if maybe we don't admit it to ourselves or don't really want to talk about that kind of thing, we care. We care what we're putting out there in the world. We care what, what we're taking in too, what we're reading, and all those things. We care about that.
Yeah, and like you said, it's just questioning the why. Why do I do these things? He had a chapter in there that was about making not a to-do list, but a not to-do list, which I think is a cool idea. If there are things in your day that are just wasting time and you're not getting anything out of it, if you are mindlessly watching TV, or for me, I decided one of mine would be naps, because I take a lot of naps.
I think we said this in that last episode, Nap Queen. Nap
Queen, yeah. So I was thinking that would definitely be on my not to-do list, because sometimes a nap is perfect and exactly what I need to be productive in the afternoon. Other times, a nap is just because I'm too lazy to do anything else, honestly. So, like I said, we got some ways to go in our process of nonconformity, but very good book. Definitely give it a read if you have the time.
Yeah, as far as books that Miranda and I have both read, it's probably one of our favorites. I mean, these are all three very good books that we'll share with you. But definitely this one fit into the podcast. We were like, we got to talk about this book. I was like, Miranda, we got to jump on there and at least give this book a shout out and get some other people to read it, because it was that good.
Yeah, and it's been out for a while. I think 2010 or something.
Yeah, I just discovered it on Kindle. It was one of my recommended reads. It was like, oh, this guy doesn't like conformity. Maybe he'll like this book. Those Amazon little robots that know exactly what you're thinking at all times.
Yeah, and Chris Guillebeau also has written another book. He might have many at this point. I just saw another one that he has written recently. So if you like the writing, keep reading more of his books. I'm sure it'll be helpful. So the second book we're going to talk about is An Astronaut's.
Nice.
Do you know what that is?
An astronaut?
Yeah.
That sounds awesome.
It's an astronaut in space.
Okay.
But they are in full armor.
Okay.
And they're warriors.
But it doesn't matter because it's weightless.
Yeah, so it's all good.
Is that related to the Moon Knight from Marvel? Oh man, I hope they make a movie. I hope they make a movie out of the Moon Knight. One of the coolest characters in Marvel Ultimate Alliance that me and my brother Gib used to play. Wow, I really hope they make a Moon Knight movie. That was a total crazy rabbit hole right there, but
that was a total nerd sidetrack. I feel like maybe one person followed you down that rabbit trail.
If you're the one person who wants a Moon Knight movie, just share this with everyone or let me know. I'm probably crazy.
Yeah. Well, what's Moon Knight's ability? He can make it nighttime.
He looks cool. If you saw a picture of him, you'd be like, "Wow, that would be an awesome movie." Just think about all the characters on Marvel. They're all ridiculous.
That's true.
Mostly, except for Iron Man. Iron Man's legit.
Is Moon Knight an astronaut?
He's an astronaut. That's why I thought.
That's what I thought. Okay.
All right.
Okay. Back to business here. The book is called An Astronaut's Guide to Life on Earth, and this is by Chris Hadfield. And he is an astronaut. He went to space 3 different times. One time he was on the International Space Station for about 6 months, I think.
And he's Canadian, eh?
He's Canadian, eh? He went oot and a boot, oop to the moon.
Oot and a boot on the space station.
Yeah, we'll work on that.
Yep.
This book,
that's my goal.
I really enjoyed because it's so cool to hear about what astronauts do. And I think I remember those parts more than anything else, just how cool zero gravity is and just the process of getting up to the International Space Station and the training they have to do. But he also sprinkled in a lot of really good practical information. Yeah,
and just a side note here, I'm going to link out and put a picture of all these books on the show notes for this episode. So just go to jmring.com/podcast and you can see all the show notes there. You can go to this episode and just, if you're interested in exactly what we're talking about. You can click on those books, read the descriptions, and get those on Amazon while you're listening to the show.
Some of the really cool parts that I thought were interesting about living out in space for 6 months, when they work out, they have to strap their feet down to the treadmill so they don't just float away, and so they actually get a workout. And he said they work out for about 2 hours.
Every day, right? Because they have to.
But it's still, they say, it takes about every day you're out in space, it takes a day on Earth to recover. So you can just imagine being in zero gravity for 6 months and then come crashing down to Earth. And then, you have the full weight of gravity on you. Chris, he was talking about how he could barely even walk when he got out of the Suez. And it's just so interesting to me.
Yeah, and the Suez, for the people who haven't read the book, is a rocket. It's a Russian rocket.
Yeah, that's how they get up and back from the International Space Station.
But yeah, it's such a cool book. He talks about, all the different things that go on in space. He actually has a lot of YouTube videos that he has put up there.
Oh, it's so cool. He did a music video. What's the song called?
On the Space Oddity.
Is that the song's called?
Yeah, I think Space Oddity.
Space Oddity.
Yeah, it has like 78 million views or something already. This was years ago. But it has like that many views on YouTube. Like, he is a cool dude. Like, he's awesome. So he wrote this book to just, kind of tell about his experiences, just being like really real about, his journey to be an astronaut. And just talking about like, hey, like, it's not, I'm not a failed astronaut if I don't go to space. He was like, I always had to have that as part of my kind of life mantra and like my goal. Like, even though it's my goal to get to space, because of course an astronaut wants to go to space. Like, that's why they do it. But he was so cool about, I'm not going to think I'm a failure if I don't, because like, I'm Canadian. A lot of Canadians don't get the chance to, go up there. It's just a very small playing field. And he realized that. He said, by the numbers, I'm not going to go to space, basically.
Yeah.
The numbers say I'm not going to go there, but I'm going to try my best. And if I don't go, it's okay. It's such a cool, like, just way to really think about life. We can have all these goals, we can have all these aspirations, but, you can have a goal to win the lottery, but you're probably not going to. You can play the numbers, you can do all this stuff to win the lottery, but there's a chance, a good chance you're not going to. And he just has that good perspective, and he shared that throughout in the book. And I thought that was just really interesting and just a great concept to think about for life.
And he focused a lot on being prepared, and a lot about kind of being prepared for the worst possible situation. And for me, when I think of an astronaut, I think of it's kind of like glamorous, you just get to go out to space and float around and it's awesome. But he kind of talked a lot about the amount of preparation that goes into that. Like I said, he went up to space 3 times, but the amount that they had to do tests and they practiced before they were allowed to go up into space was just astronomical. It's just crazy, the amount of work they had to put in beforehand.
Astronomical, nice.
Yeah.
I see what you did there, Rennie Boone.
So an astronaut isn't spending most of their time in space. Most of their time is on Earth preparing to be on space.
And preparing for disasters, basically.
Yeah. And it's just crazy because they could get scrubbed from a mission if they get sick right before, or anything could happen that could prevent them from actually going out to space. So it is a lot of preparation, but you have to maintain that attitude of, I'm going to be totally prepared, but even if it doesn't happen, I'm going to have to be okay with it, which is really cool. It's something you should really try to apply to your own life, even though it's very difficult.
Yep. Yeah, overall, great book. Very interesting. Very easy, very flowing writing style. Miranda and I both finished that recently and enjoyed the book very much. Definitely worth picking up. Definitely worth checking out.
Yeah. 2 other fun facts about space. I think these are cool.
Sure.
When they go up to space and they come back, their feet come back. The bottoms of their feet are just incredibly soft. Because if you think about how little use the bottom of their feet are getting in space, it gives your foot a chance to become nice and soft like a baby's.
So interesting.
Which is crazy. You don't think about that. And another thing they talked about was, when you wake up in the morning, you get a bunch of sleep in your eyes. That happens to them throughout the day, but it's because gravity isn't there. So it's not pulling from your eye ducts. It's not pulling that, the liquid down. So throughout the day, they have to clean out their eyes from, because because it has sleep in them.
And they can't really cry because of the tear ducts. And I don't know why you'd want to cry in space.
I mean, it's probably beautiful. You probably want to cry a little bit.
But yeah, they said they get like their sinuses are clogged because gravity isn't draining them. Like so many interesting things
crazy.
You just wouldn't even think about. And then I think we talked about the exercise and stuff, but then they get back to Earth and they can't even move.
Yeah,
they have to have someone pull them out. I think Miranda said that, but that's just like, that blows my mind that, they get back into Earth and they're just like, it's like that. You don't even think about gravity and your muscles having to like even pull your arm up. You can do that. Yeah. Even if you never work out ever, you can pick your arm up pretty easily, but they can't even do that when they get back to Earth. It's just crazy cool stuff. Definitely worth it as far as just letting your mind go to a different place.
And their heart shrinks because it doesn't have to expend as much energy and pump as much blood when there's no gravity. So they come back down and their heart shrinks. How crazy is that?
So crazy.
I just think it's so interesting. It reminded me a lot of Creativity Inc., which is another really, really good book that I love because that book gives you kind of an inside look at Pixar and how they run their company.
That's not one of the three we're talking about, but that is a definitely very interesting book as well.
Yeah, I love that book. So if you like An Astronaut's Guide to Life on Earth, definitely read Creativity Inc. It's equally as interesting, and it also has very practical tips on, how to run a company and things like that. So that was the second book. The third book is Brain Rules. Now, Jordan hasn't read this one yet.
I'm going to, but I have not read it yet.
I'm ahead of him on this one because we're in battle to see who can get to 50 books first. So
we are in battle, but I have Audible on my side.
Yeah, I'm a faster reader though. So
reading books is great, but if you haven't signed up for Audible, you definitely should. Audible is awesome. Audible is Amazon's company to listen to audiobooks. If you did not know that, definitely worth it to sign up for that.
Yeah, and for some reason...
I could even add a link to that as well. So if you want to sign up for Audible, you can do that. Go through my affiliate link. I will get some money. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Definitely don't have to do that, of course. But if you want to, Audible's awesome. You should probably have it anyway. Because there are always times in your life where you could be listening to books. Maybe you're just walking, or maybe you're driving on a long commute to work. Read a book instead. Listen to a book.
Yeah, don't read a book while you're driving. That's very dangerous.
Well, yes, exactly. Go ahead, Rin.
For me, though, I have a little bit of a harder time with Audible because I always fall asleep. If, we're in the car and Jordan turns on a book on Audible, I am out cold in, 5 minutes. So, also, for you nap queens out there, get Audible for a good chance at a nap.
Yeah. Well, I just think that's interesting. That's where people are different. Some people thrive on that. I mean, I have a harder time sitting in a chair and reading a book. I have to really focus on doing that. I would much rather be cooking dinner and listening to an audiobook or walking or driving the car. Now, of course, I like to read. I'll sit there and read if the book is really good. But it's just funny where people are different. So but I think Audible can work no matter what. So
yeah, Audible is awesome.
Especially if you want to take a nap.
Yes. So this book, Brain Rules, is by John Medina. And this book, it's a New York Times bestseller, so it's good.
Those New Yorkers, they know what they're talking about.
Yeah. I feel like most books have some sort of bestseller thing on it, though, so I'm not sure the difference, but...
How was that New York accent?
It was...
that was garbage.
It's really, really good.
Thanks. Hey, I'm working on it.
Yeah, so this book... is really interesting because it talks about how your brain works. And I found it fascinating. There was a lot of stuff that I had no idea. It talks a lot about memory and how your brain functions just in general. And it's so fascinating because every person's brain is so different that when people do brain surgery, that's why they have to keep you conscious because they have to ask you questions, and where one person stores information in their brain, someone else stores in a completely different area. So
I think that's just crazy.
Yeah, he likened it to, he said the information comes through and your brain basically just throws it at a wall because even all the information that you get from one event, it goes into different places. Your brain sends it to different parts of the brain. And it's just crazy. It talked about long-term memory and short-term memory, and just how your brain kind of makes things up too when it comes to what you see visually, which is so fascinating. It talks about how you have two eyes and how your brain is kind of processing just an average image of what both eyes are seeing. Because if you do that trick where you put that hand in front of you and you close one eye then the other, it's in different spots. So your brain is incredible that it can do that and process it and make it just one solid image for you.
And you never even think about that.
Yeah, it's not like something you think about. It's just...
You told me to do that, and I was like, looking like a crazy person staring at their hand. But yeah, it's so interesting. You're like, wow, that is true. Like, you're taking two images and merging them, but you don't think about those things because you don't have to.
Yeah, it's just this book. It's really interesting because it does talk a lot about how your brain works, and it's a lot of things that you don't think about. It's not as inspiring as, the nonconformist life, but it does give you a really good picture of how your brain's actually functioning, on a day-to-day basis. It has the title underneath is 12 Principles for Surviving and Thriving at Work, Home, and School. So there are practical applications in it as well, how you can help yourself remember things. It talked about the sense of smell and how you remember things better if you're studying and you have the smell of coffee. If you take a test and you have that same smell of coffee, your brain remembers it better. Just fascinating stuff.
Amazing.
Fascinating. It's so cool. So that's Brain Rules, another really, really good book that I'm sure you'll find very interesting. All three books together are just an awesome combination.
Yep. Yeah, so if you guys out there have any recommendations as far as books you think we should read or you want me to share on that page, just reach out, comment on that post, comment on our Facebook posts that we share for the podcast, anything.
Yeah, and like we said before, even if you don't like to sit down and read, definitely give Audible a try or try Kindle. Maybe you can read during your lunch break at work. Do whatever you can because reading is so amazing. It definitely just makes your brain grow and makes you think about things differently. So it's definitely worth it. Even if you're someone that just hates reading, try something different. Try Audible. Try forcing, someone to read out loud to you or something. Whatever it takes. Yep.
Yeah, reading is just the way to go. I'm sure it feels like we're beating a dead horse by saying you should read more than you watch TV, but it's such an amazing thing how you can finish a book, and then like Miranda said, she's gotten so pumped up. She had me give away more of my clothes, even though I don't have that many. She was like, we need to give away. We need to
I know, if someone's even talking about minimalism, I get all excited. And I
you do get very excited. You love it.
I want to throw everything away and give it away. I just get crazy.
But it's good. It's good. It's good to get pumped up like that. That's cool. That's a cool effect that books have.
But, poor you. I'm always going after your stuff.
You are, but it's okay. I'm fine with it.
It's okay, because you wear the same, 3 outfits, so we're all good.
Yep. Thanks for calling me out. All right, guys. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Freedom Cast. Definitely get your read on. Get your read on. Yeah, things will start, really opening up for you. Like Miranda said, your brain will just really start to open up. You'll start to see different possibilities, and hopefully you'll start to question things a little bit more, because questioning things is so powerful.
Yeah, and we're really excited to keep going with our quest to 50 books in 2018. Hopefully we find a lot of other good books that we can tell you about, because this has been really fun so far. I hope you enjoyed hearing about these books, because we really like talking about them.
Yep, so stay frosty, friends, and have a great rest of your weekend.
See ya.